Hello everybody, welcome back to Catch Up Court, the place to catch up on your favorite trials. I go by the name of Hines. Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode. We have been watching this trial from day one since it started. If you've missed the previous catch up, you can definitely go and watch that. The playlist is in the description. But to give it a quick catch up, and for those that may not know the background of the case, Nicholas Kassotis has been, he has been accused of dismembering his wife, killing his wife, and dumping her body at a hunting club. And that's essentially, they had to go through extreme lengths to find her and even identify her. She was unidentifiable by face. That's pretty much been, and throughout this trial, they've just been putting on the foundations to show the evidence that they had. Their theory of the prosecution theory of the case is essentially that he committed this murder and he had the means to do it because he had a lot of money to get the equipment, get the tools needed to commission the murder, and also but the defense, on the other hand, says he did not do it because there was a guy that goes by the name of Jim McIntyre who said that he was part of the FBI. Doesn't matter if he's real or not, but he has said himself that he's part of the FBI, and that, of course, Nicholas had to be careful with his life. That he was essentially living in fear because of what this FBI person had said. So he was on the run for that reason, not to kill this this wife. Of course, on the prosecution theory of the case, they said that because he had remarried and done all of this stuff in such a short space of time after the wife's death, he must have done it. So yeah, day one, that's basically the quick recap from day one and what this case is about. Day two has not really been different because it's just continuing on from the witness that we had yesterday, who was the special GBI agent that testified and gave testimony regarding the body, regarding the chain of custody, the collection of materials, the handling of evidence, all of those things. So that was the bulk of his testimony yesterday. He goes by the name of Dickerson. He was testifying yesterday. Yesterday also included testimony from the hunters and the officers that were at the scene when they were finding his body. But yeah, today was essentially the continuation of that. The states are still putting on a lot of foundational witnesses. But yeah, we're gonna go into the cross-examination today because I firmly believe that Nicholas Kassotis, who is represented by Doug Weinstein, he has got a very good lawyer representing him. And from what I've seen, I'm not too sure about this. I did look into it a little bit today. It does sound like that it does sound like it's a public defender rather than a private counsel. I could be wrong. I'm putting my hands up. I could be wrong. But that's what it seems like. But I have no way to 100% know unless he says it himself. So on X, which he is active on. So anyway, he was going through the cross-examination today of Brett Dickerson. Like I was saying on yesterday's recap, the prosecution's case in chief, they have been presenting themselves as very thorough in their investigation. They have been showing that there were limitations to what they can find because of the dismemberment. Of course, this goes against Nicholas in a big way because it shows that that the main reason why he would dismember this body is so that he could not be traced easily. I believe they've done a good job in showing the composition, the decomposition of the body over time. They dropped clues that they were going to show a lot of that, but that they were going to show more of that to show that he did this because he didn't want to be tracked. So that's why he dismembered the body. And today we got to hear more evidence in regards to this whole dismemberment. Anyway, let me go on to the cross-examination because Doug Weinstein had basically highlighted that that he was on the scene from 9:15 on that day, that he was on the scene from 9:15, and he also highlighted that there was a lot of trash on the floor. Now, many would think, why would you want to highlight this? But it was quite a genius move. Let me go and show what I'm trying to say and why I believe it was a genius move from him to be highlighting what he was doing today.
Correct?
That's correct.
Now, isn't it true that beer cans, Coke bottles, that type of material, you could get latent prints off of those at times?
Go back a little bit.
Now, isn't it true that beer cans, Coke bottles, that type of material, you could get latent prints off of those at times, correct?
That's a possibility, yes.
And out of that 100, 120 scenes that you have collected evidence from before, have you ever picked up cans, bottles, other things like that?
Yes, sir. I picked up items that were later processed for latent fingerprints. Yes.
Okay.
So
this is the setup, because he basically said that there was a lot of trash when he entered the scene to collect some of this evidence, and he basically says and from this testimony you get the idea that he has picked up these kind of trash before.
But in this case, you elected not to pick those up, correct?
that's correct.
You did also, there was a cigarette pack that was photographed, I believe a Marlboro pack, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you took that Marlboro pack into evidence, right?
I did.
Are you the person, once you collect this into evidence, it then goes to a crime lab?
That's correct.
And what crime lab does that go to?
So when I say crime lab, the GBI operates a statewide crime lab, and we have several locations. The location that serves our area is located in Poole. Coastal Crime Lab.
I'm sorry. Are you through?
I am.
Okay. When it goes to the crime lab, are you the one that decides on what tests are performed by the crime lab?
To some extent, we can submit evidence to the lab and request that certain processes be conducted on evidence. We cannot require them to be processed. The lab does have to make decisions based on the resources that they have available to them.
I believe you testified that the case agent in this case is, I don't know what the right verb is, Tracy Sands, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's
Agent
correct.
Sands? Do you see Agent Sands in the courtroom now?
I do.
Where's Agent Sands?
He's sitting at the prosecution table.
Okay. So does Agent Sands also, is he someone that could also request that certain evidence be analyzed at the crime lab?
That's correct. We can request.
So either you might request, Agent Sands might request, might request, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Did you request any analysis on that Marlboro cigarette pack?
So the evidence submission forms were made and the cigarette pack was submitted to the crime lab, but it would be a better question for Agent Sands than it would be for myself.
Okay. Well, you specifically did not request any particular analysis on the Marlboro cigarette pack, correct?
That's correct.
So from what I understand from this testimony is that not only were they selective on the scene, they were also selective. They are also quite selective in getting through, getting that evidence through to processing and getting the relevant people to process that. So what this is doing is basically reasonable doubt into how much or how efficient the law enforcement were in their material collection, in their evidence collection. And and the reason why this is because they're trying to show that the only reason why they are unable to tie Nicholas to the scene definitively is not because of a suspicion that he may have killed her and decomposed her this way, so that he could not be traced at all. Not because he allegedly burned his car so that he cannot be traced and all of these things, but it's essentially that they didn't do a good enough job in putting him on the scene through their investigation. So that's why the trash highlighting was important, because as he has highlighted that there were some beer cans on the scene, there were all of these things that they could have picked up and also had those tested for possible DNA that may have led back to Nicholas. And yeah, some people might say it's not obvious, or some people might say it could be overkill, that you're just collecting everything to do all this. But in a case like this, where you're trying to argue that the way that the body is dismembered, there is not enough blood to trace DNA, their DNA has been wiped from this, etc. So when you are alleging something like that, then you have to be shown that you've done everything possible to essentially get as much DNA as possible. And I think this line of questioning from the defense is really good in highlighting this possibility. Would the jury notice it? I hope so. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's doing this so that I'm pretty sure they might pick it up if on closing arguments it is highlighted again. I'm pretty sure that's what all this foundation setting is for on this cross-examination. But it shows that they could have missed an important key piece of evidence, and even when they did collect some materials, they can choose not to even analyze it. And in this case, they didn't even analyze the Marlboro pack that they did collect, because what if Nicholas is a smoker? We will never know. So yeah, so that's just one thing that stood out. So there was also another part of this testimony, of this witness cross examination, that stuck out to me, and that was in regards to the DNA, in regards to the wipes that was disposed. And I didn't really think much about this until I didn't really get where he was going with this, by the way, until it really just hit me after he had basically shown after the testimony that what's his name, Brett Nixon gave. Let me just go to it. 1 second. Oh.
Agent Dickerson, you were asked by counsel.
That's not right. Okay, that's the redirect examination. That's not what I want. This is what I want.
So you collected all of these wipes as evidence and you submitted them to the lab, correct?
So he has shown before this clip, he has shown the wipes that he had collected, and it was only 2 of the wipes that was attached onto each other. They were not removed. They were attached onto each other. That was collected. And let me, you know what? Can I show that? Yeah, so that's basically what it looked like, and that's pretty key. That's pretty key because you would think, again, probably just me overthinking it, but you would think that they would break it apart, but at the same time, you do have some people that just fold it together and start wiping. I don't know. I don't know how it works, but anyway, that's what it looks like. Let's go to the questioning.
So you collected all of these wipes as evidence and you submitted them to the lab, correct?
That's correct.
You testified yesterday that in some cases, these cleaning wipes can destroy DNA, correct?
That's my understanding in conversations that I've had with the folks at the lab in the biology section, is that is a possibility that the DNA can be damaged by certain brands of cleaning wipes, depending on the chemicals that are involved in the process.
But then there are also other brands of cleaning wipes where DNA would not be destroyed, correct?
That's possible, but I couldn't speak to it with any certainty.
Did you ask that these wipes be checked for DNA?
Again, with Agent Sands having submitted the evidence himself for testing, then those requests would have been made through him.
So if you could just answer that one question, did you request that these wipes be tested for DNA?
I did not.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
So immediately, I was thinking, why would he ask this question? What's the importance of this question? Then it hit me. Yeah, people would normally assume that every wipe is able to get rid of DNA, but we just heard from this testimony that not every wipe does that. That it basically depends on the chemicals, etc. But not every wipe can destroy DNA. So, irrespective of, so you now got to bring that in to the fact that this wipe was allegedly supposed to have been used to wipe the knife. So if that's the case, DNA would definitely be on the wipe. So if it goes into the crime lab and is tested, they could have found maybe or maybe not. It could have been nothing. But again, this chips away at the investigation and shows there was a massive hole here, that they have this wipe that could contain DNA, and yet, as we have heard from Dickerson on day one, all the time he was saying that they have one shot at this. They have they don't have. I forgot the word. I forgot the word that he kept using. One bite of the apple. That's it. He kept saying that they have one bite of the apple of this, so they had to be really thorough. That was the impression that was left from the direct exam yesterday. So when we go into this, and this mistake is being highlighted, that he didn't request for this wipe to be DNA tested just to be sure, and they also have one bite of the apple at this, it could add to the reasonable doubt element, because it could have been game-changing in identifying and definitely putting Nicholas at the scene. All of this is groundwork to basically say, you don't know, there could be a third party out there that may have committed this, because they have argued that in their theory of the case. But anyway, Trial Channel, welcome back. I appreciate you joining today. I think better to keep them connected if they were found that way, but they weren't tested, so whatever. No, I wasn't suggesting that they themselves rip it apart. What I was saying was, the person that's using the wipe to essentially do the wiping, at least from what I do, I would just rip off the amount that I need, usually one. And it was just weird for me to see it attached still. It was kind of it was like, because I normally just rip it. So, but then again, that's just me. That's just how I do it. So, maybe other people do it as well. So I was just kind of, intrigued to have seen that. I was just kind of, surprised to see that. But on redirect exam, there was something that the prosecution did to try and recover that I want to basically talk about, and it was the rebuttal to the wipes question. Let's watch.
Comes on to contact with it?
And there's a possibility they can remove both from the surface of a piece of evidence or a piece of potential evidence.
What about wiping with a cleansing wipe? What could that do? DNA? Counsel asked you what forensic expertise.
All right.
Please let us know.
Let's go on.
Counsel asked you whether or not the cleaning wipes, the chemicals in them, can destroy or damage DNA. Do you know what water can do to fingerprints or DNA if it comes on to contact with it?
And there's a possibility they can remove both from the surface of a piece of evidence or a piece of potential evidence.
Important. That's important because of the time the season this was done. This will be autumn, so it'll be raining season a lot. It was dumped in an open field, so water. It may have been raining, and they did find water according to the testimonies. So this would eliminate. So that just goes back to that's just her trying to tie it back to Nicholas.
Wiping with a cleansing wipe. What could that do to fingerprints or DNA, if you know?
Well, again, there's a lot of unknown variables to the question that you're asking, but even something as simple as a dry paper towel rubbed across latent fingerprints, which are primarily made up of oil and water, would cause some mechanical destruction of those prints. They wouldn't be there anymore on a hard surface. Now, on a porous surface, that may be a little different, but on a plastic or a metal surface that's smooth, then yeah, certainly rubbing something across it could destroy those fingerprints.
Okay. And do you know if light has any impact? Only if you know.
On latent prints or DNA?
On either or.
So sunlight is got a large component. A large component of sunlight is ultraviolet light, and ultraviolet light is not good for DNA at all. In fact, you may see ultraviolet lights being used to sanitize certain things, and that's given enough exposure. My training indicates that DNA can be damaged by sunlight.
So at a minimum, you're aware that as of December 2nd of 2022, that's when a portion of her remains were recovered, correct?
I'm sorry, you
A portion of her remains were first recovered on December 2nd of 2022.
correct. That's when Mindy's torso was found.
Okay.
I thought this was smart. Speak about the other days that the body was found to basically show that there was a natural decomposition anyway, and also shows that the elements were destroying the evidence. So that also contributes away from the knife. So I thought it was smart to go through that, and I thought the paper towel testimony was also smart because paper towel does get rid of it, but cleansing wipes goes back to the intent because of the chemicals. Like, so it goes, maybe I'm overthinking this a little bit, but of course it just shows that anyone that's out to go and commit this and try to cover it up, they wouldn't think, let me use a paper wipe because it might leave behind some fingerprints. It can still get rid of it, but it might leave behind something. So let me just try and definitively get rid of it. I don't think it was strong though, because I still think that the cross-examination was to highlight that issue. It was too strong because end of the day he brought cleansing wipes, and you still didn't test the cleansing wipes to be sure 100% that that it was 100% him. So the question doesn't go back to the mechanism that's being used to essentially get rid of the potential DNA here, but it goes back to the investigation of this DNA, of collecting possible DNA prints, all of those things from the knife. So and not necessarily the body itself. So even though I do think that she did a good job cleaning up the cross, I don't think it done or saved much. But but that's just essentially it. And there was a recross after this that the defense just basically went back into highlighting the collection of the collection of evidence, and how, in my opinion, it was masterful, because he just highlighted the distance that the evidence was collected from the torso to the other areas of evidence collection. Let's go and watch that so that you can see what I mean.
That's approximately 607. Evidence placards 150 feet away, correct? The state mentioned that, or asked you about the location of most of the trash that you saw, cans, bottles, and it was along Jones Road.
Yes, sir.
And that was approximately 650 feet away, correct?
Yes, sir.
Looking at Exhibit 1.4 that was introduced yesterday, you recall this?
Yes, sir.
In Exhibit 1.4, evidence placards 1 through 3 and 4 through 7, those ones down by the gate, that's approximately 650 feet away as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
So even though those were also 650 feet away, you felt that that was evidence that should be collected.
I did.
And that evidence included the Husky storage container. You took that, correct?
Yes, sir.
You took the Milwaukee knife that was 650 feet away from her torso.
I did.
You took cleaning wipes that were 650 feet away from her torso.
Yes, sir.
You took torn, cut, gray cloth that was 650 feet away from her torso.
I did.
And you took literally a black plastic trash bag that was 650 feet away from her torso.
Yes,
Correct?
Sir. Yes, sir, I did.
And you, and when I say you in this case, I'm meaning the team that was there. So y'all picked up an empty cigarette pack that, at least on Exhibit 1.4, looks to be several hundred feet away from her torso, correct?
That's fair.
Was there no trash in Exhibit 1.4 between the gate and the location of her torso?
There may have been small pieces of trash that I just overlooked. That's a possibility.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
That's all he wanted from the testimony. That's literally all he wanted, just to get him on record to say that he may have overlooked the trash from this area, these areas that were X amount of feet away from the torso, where he overlooked initial trash to pick up the to pick up the Marlboro cigarette rather than the trash that was on the scene. I thought this was really good to bring it back to the idea after the whole cleansing wipes and not getting that further analyzed, without getting further analysis of those cleansing wipes. I thought it was a good recross to bring it all back to show that they were already going to all of these parts, being thorough, but yet they may have overlooked key items. But yeah, that is the continuation. That was the continuation of Brett Dickerson, who is the special GBI agent that was on yesterday. That was the cross and redirect and the recross done the day. There were 6 more witnesses after him. Lindsay Smith was a special agent that also was specializing more in regards to getting the wildlife tracing, etc. So anyway, we are gonna go into her testimony in more detail later on. I don't want to get ahead of myself. But like I said, Lindsay Smith was the next witness. She was the special agent. Then it was Kate Lawson. She was the forensic artist. Then it was Peter Hershey, the salesperson, who I really believe was the main or the key player in all of this, because very important evidence came out from his testimony that I can't wait to get to. Dean Glover was the public works. He got to testify, and Brittany Gresham, she was the expert witness she was proffered as an expert witness, sorry, and she is a forensic toxicologist. And Keith Lemarr was the medical examiner. He was brought in, and I believe he basically, I don't think his testimony was over. If memory serves, I think we're gonna go into a bit more cross-examination from his testimony tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't think his testimony was over. But anyway, those are the witnesses. Let's start with Lindsay Smith. Before we do that, though, if you are watching on replay or watching live, definitely please smash that like button. It will really help us out with the YouTube algorithm. If you are unable to watch this trial live every single day, we will have the catch up right here for you, the extended coverage. You can definitely get that and join us. Or if you just want to hear more analysis or want to hear more voice on the case, we will do that. It's perfect. This video is perfect for you. This live stream is perfect for you. And of course, we have the best chat, the most vibrant chat. So yeah, it's a very good environment to be here. We also do full trial recaps. I've done one regarding the Ali case. You can go check that out on the video tab of the channel and catch up with trials that you may not have really heard of. I do comprehensive recaps of trials, so yeah, that's an option for you as well. So welcome to once again, welcome to Catch Up Court, and yeah, the place where to catch up on trials. The trial channel says, interesting, your analysis helped me pick up things I missed and overlooked. I'm glad that it does. I'm glad. So sometimes I really think maybe I go overboard in my thinking, or I have overkill, but I'm glad that I'm able to say things that are not crazy sometimes, that are not out there. So yeah, but yeah, I appreciate that comment. Thank you so much, Trial Channel. But yeah, Lindsay Smith, like I said, she was the one that essentially processed the maggots given to her to basically see how long, to get a better idea of how long the body was out there, if they had these maggots eating parts of her skin and body. And she said that this was the first time she's had to do this. She also testifies to commissioning for the drawings to be done to aid her in identifying the victim. Sorry about that. She says that Miss Lawson was the one to basically do the drawings, and she testified today. She also testified that she was conducting the genealogy process, and they were able to find a sample of blood, and this was recovered from the autopsy. So they did get some blood, and it was sent away for further testing. So I don't think we heard testimony in regards to this blood that was found yet, in regards to the testing of it, but that was the essence of her testimony. But something happened on cross-examination that was, I just felt vindicated for what happened in this cross-examination. Let's go and watch, because anyway, let me not get ahead of myself. Let's just go watch.
My name is Doug Weinstein. I'm representing Mr. Kassotis in this case. Just a few questions. You testified that you were hoping for more items to be tested. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What specific items were you hoping that the crime lab would test?
I would hope they would have tested everything that we submitted.
I, personally speaking, this was not in my notes. I missed it. I don't know how I missed it, but I'm gonna have to pay way more attention. I do pay attention, but missing that detail of her hoping to have done more is a massive, great testimony for the defense. If your investigators are like saying, I hope I receive this item, and there's already the background, there's already the foundation that they were overlooking some items from the scene, and this is after, again, going through the cross-examination from the GBI agent, Brett Dickerson, going through his cross-examination where he says, where he was saying that that they are passing this on and they get to decide, they also get to decide what gets to be passed on. So even after collecting the evidence, they can look at that evidence and be like, actually, let's not pass that on. So even after that testimony to show that they can overlook things, that it's not always everything that needs to be tested, this testimony coming in was devastating. In my opinion, it was completely devastating for that reasonable doubt and how thorough it really was, because they could have recovered something, but really maybe they overlooked a lot.
Perfect world.
Which specific items did you hope they would test that they would not test?
I believe the Clorox wipes, or whatever type of wipes those were. Specifically, that's what stands out in my mind.
So did you request those to be tested? You had discussions with the crime lab, and then they would not test them?
I don't believe specifically we had the discussion of that. We were presenting them with the list of everything that had been provided, and once something was tested and we didn't have any success or any leads, we would ask for something else to be tested in hopes that we would get some additional information.
You said the crime lab is short-staffed in certain areas. What areas is to your knowledge?
So, anyway,
Is the crime lab short-staffed in?
I believe most of the scientific fields are short-staffed across the state.
And just to help the jury understand, what are the scientific fields specifically that are short-staffed across the state?
So I believe toxicology, the chemists, biologists.
And because of that, items that special agents or assistant special agents want to be tested, or other agents want to be tested, may not be tested by the crime lab,
That's correct.
even though you believe they should be tested.
That's correct.
No further questions. Thank you.
Just one follow-up. If you had thought something was critical to the case to be able to prove or disprove the case, would you have taken that somewhere else than the GBI Coastal Lab?
Yes, we would have.
Did you do that in this case?
We did.
And did you get results from it?
We did.
Nothing further.
Anything else? Real quick. Do you ask for items that aren't critical to be tested from the crime lab?
I believe all items that we collect are critical.
Thank you. No other questions.
and that look. Anyway, I think this was. I don't think the prosecution planned for that, because that redirect was just. I mean, it didn't cure the issue, because what it goes back to is the testimony from the agent that basically said and showed the chain of command, and even the chain of command of passing through the evidence from one person to another. It goes back to that, but most importantly, she was begging, basically thinking in her head, "Oh, I really wish we could have tested those wipes." And again, it goes back to, well, they didn't give the wipes to be tested. They chose not to. Why would you not? And for you to come in and say, we believe, for you to highlight that critical items were tested, well, yeah, the ones that you received, you thought were critical. So that was why the recross, in my opinion, was really like it just ties it back together. So if you thought that the items that you received was critical, then these wipes that you didn't receive are clearly not critical, because end of the day, even though there's a possibility that you can find DNA on them, you guys don't think that certain materials that you receive are critical to showing a piece of evidence. So in my opinion, going back to the testimony that you can leave some DNA on the wipes, that sometimes it doesn't destroy DNA, it can actually retain DNA. All of those, he didn't use the word retain, by the way. So that's just what I understood or interpret his testimony to mean. But you can still have DNA on it. So so that was just my takeaway from this cross-examination. It just highlights, it's just more reasonable doubt to show maybe these guys, they're not actually doing enough do the investigation as thoroughly as they've tried to present it, because we have seen from day one, we have seen how methodical or even right down, they collected the hunters' names, they recorded the time every officer arrived at the scene, all of those things. But when it comes to the material collection, it just seems that maybe they were let down here. So that's, maybe they should have applied that same thoroughness to this side of the aisle, to this side of the case. So that's what I saw from this. So Kelly Lawson did testify. She was a forensic artist. She was the one that drew the photos, that was able to track the victim. She was on the photo that was released on the press release that we went through yesterday. The press release is in the description of that video yesterday. So we went through that. Then it was Peter Hershey that gave testimony, and I thought his testimony was really key, in my opinion, because he was the person that sold the Ford Explorer that we heard on the opening statements, that allegedly Nicholas, I keep forgetting his name, I'm really bad with names, so bear with me on this one. But anyway, allegedly Nicholas was the one to have torched this vehicle. So we heard testimony in regards to the purchase of that vehicle, and I thought the testimony was really damning. Let's watch.
Okay. And that was what year?
22.
Okay. What type of a car was this that was sold?
It was a Ford Explorer.
Okay. And that was what year?
22.
Okay. Do you know if Ford Explorers in 2022 had the ability to have Bluetooth or telematic connection?
They did.
Can you tell the jury what the difference is between telematics and GPS?
No, I cannot.
Okay. Well, let me be more clear then. Does the car have the ability to connect to a phone?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And in doing that, does that require some equipment inside of the car?
Yes, there's a modem inside the car.
Okay. And do you know, if you know, who Ford uses as their cellular provider for that
That
modem?
would be AT&T.
Okay. Did this car have an AT&T modem for that 2022 Ford?
I would say it would be very likely that it would, yes.
Okay. And would that be able to be tracked based on the vehicle identification number? Meaning AT&T records?
It should be, but that would more come off the phone rather than the car.
Okay. And with respect to this vehicle, there was that vehicle identification number associated that you just referred to?
Correct.
And is that listed here on that contract right there on the top left side under?
It is under serial number.
Okay.
Okay, so just to cut this examination short a little bit, the AT&T records that we went through yesterday, it should come in to show, maybe through a data analyst or someone like that. We might hear testimony from them on one of these days. But I'm anticipating that they're gonna introduce evidence that he was using that car at around the same time that this murder possibly happened, based on this dismemberment possibly happened, based on my understanding of what they introduced to evidence from the hunters, the body was found pretty quickly. It wasn't over a long amount of time. The torso anyway, because the other parts of the body took a longer time to be found. I think it was in December they found the other bodies. But this testimony goes to that because it goes to why he would want to destroy the car, and and they gave that theory they gave that theory on opening statements, but as you know, opening statements does not mean anything. They have to prove that this car was actually destroyed. So they're gonna have to bring that evidence in one way or the other. But they have shown the car was bought and they have gone through the telematics, etc. I'm glad that you have said this, because this is something that I was expecting from the Karen Reed trial, that they would be as this thorough to at least get the telematics in, to get the location that she was definitely found in, that it was definitely Fairview, all of these things, but that didn't happen. So I'm glad I'm glad that you highlighted this, and her Lexus was 2022. So this is something that I definitely remember from the Karen Reed trial that I was thinking they would definitely have. Anyway, let me move on.
F is in Foxtrot, M is in Mike's, S is in Hotel 7.
And with respect to this vehicle, do you see the portion where it says here at the bottom, amount financed?
I do.
And what amount was financed?
None.
So how was this car paid for?
Cash or check.
So that would be the full $44,853.74?
Correct. Now, there is a section on that buyer's order that'll show a lien holder, if there is one.
Okay. And with respect to...
This does prove and just does give a win for the prosecution, because they have shown that this guy wasn't broke or wasn't waiting on money to counter the defense theory of the case. They have shown that he did actually have a lot of money, but he didn't. But obviously he was owing money, which is why he was making all of these runs. So this does go to prove that theory of the case. I have never heard of people buying cars outright, with cash, full on cash, brand new cars for that matter. So I'm a bit envious here, because it's usually finance. It's usually finance, but it was a powerful direct examination. But the cross examination, I gotta give it up to Doug Weinstein again, because you're going to see why.
Now, as I understand it, you don't recall specifically selling this car to Mr. Kassotis, because you sell so.
I forgot to share my screen again. I'm so sorry. I'm about to say, but hopefully you did hear the testimony. But anyway, let me continue.
Cars, correct?
Sir, that would be like 600 to 900 cars ago, yes. And it was during COVID, and half the time during COVID, we didn't meet the customer.
I understand.
The car would get delivered to them, and we would have done the paperwork.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to ask about, do you keep up? We were talking about recalls on these vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
So this car was sold in 2022, correct?
Mm-hmm.
It's a 2022 vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that we saw that there was one recall at the time of sale.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at the time of sale, you don't know about recalls that are going to pop up in the future, correct?
That is correct.
So if there's recalls that come in 2023, that wouldn't be on the sale paper from 2022.
It would not.
And if there's recalls from 2024, that's not going to be on the sales paperwork either.
Not unless you can get somebody to have a crystal ball and print from that crystal ball, no.
I know. I mean, my clients often want me to have a crystal ball, but I don't have one. And I'm sure your customers are the same way, right?
That's correct.
So you were still working as a salesman with Ford as August 2024, in August 2024.
That is correct.
So are you aware of the recall that Ford issued in August 2024 of 85,000 Ford Explorers for engine fires?
Objection, Your Honor, as to when? In August of 2024, or when was the recall counsel's referring to?
I'm asking if the witness is aware of a recall that was issued in August of 2024 for 85,000 Ford Explorers for engine fires.
Which would only matter, Your Honor, for relevance if that was applicable to a 2022 model.
These, let me be more specific, I'm sorry. I'll rephrase the question. Are you aware of a recall that Ford issued in August of 2024 for 85,000 2020 to 2022 model year Ford Explorers for engine fires?
I probably knew about the recall at the time. I probably had some kind of issue, would have called the service department to see if they could fix them, because I would get phone calls from customers that would ask about the recall. Do I remember that specific recall? No. Ford has literally, I hate to say it, but literally several recalls a year.
And Ford is not unusual in that, right? To
No,
just
every
protect Ford here.
manufacturer has those.
Okay. But again, an August 2024 recall would not have shown up in 2022 paperwork, correct?
That would be obvious, yes, sir. That would be correct.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Anything else on redirect?
Before, I just want to say this. I like Doug's style as well. I said this earlier. He reminds me of Robert Alessi. He reminds, like, based on how meticulous he is, maybe not a like for like comparison. That's not what I'm trying to do, because but in terms of mannerisms, in terms of politeness, he's always introducing himself. I am representing this person. Hi, good. How are you doing? Very nice. All of the courteous, all of that. It just seems like a good guy. So yeah, so he reminds me of that. But the prosecution did do good to catch him on that. But I do have a swipe. a little bit, and it's just because he said, and maybe it's just me being a stickler over it, but the fact that the salesman, Peter Hershey, basically said that he can't remember if this was a particular recall, I would have tried to introduce into evidence. I know it's hearsay. It would be hearsay. So he maybe not introduced, but just to show him the paperwork, say, oh, does this jog your memory? Oh, yeah. I remember now. All those things. That getting it on record would be way more efficient, in my opinion. Does that negate his testimony? No, because he still testified that there were recalls around that time. He would have been, notified of it by Ford, etc. But this would have been, in my opinion, at least a perfect time to at least bring in something to jog his memory and get him to say on record, so that the jury can consider it as evidence. Because what you're gonna hear through not cross examination, but what you're gonna hear from closing statements is basically gonna be what the lawyers say is not evidence. So if a jury picks up on that, not if a jury picks up on that, the jury might look at that and be like, well, we didn't get to see any, we didn't get to see if there was any recall or this and that. So, all of those things. I'm inclined to agree with you in regards, it wouldn't be hearsay if there was an actual recall notice. I'm inclined to agree with you, but I'm just thinking of the business. I mean, it might come through because of the business records exception. Definitely, it might come through, but, the state might object and some judge might actually sustain the objection. So I'm just speaking it from that perspective. So, but you can get the evidence in, from what I understand, without having to show it. You can still get in by him actually saying, oh yeah, that did happen. And then if he's looking at the documents, and this is in a scenario where, they can't get in for hearsay, but of course you can use it to refresh the mind of the person that actually sold him the car. So that's just where I'm coming from. That's my understanding, that they could still bring this in regardless. So I was a bit I desired a bit more, I should say, from that cross-examination. It was still a good cross. Don't get me wrong. It was still a good cross. I just desired more. So so that was the bulk of his testimony. The recall testimony was really fantastic because it just would explain why their car would suddenly catch fire. So it just explained why it wouldn't be a deliberate damage to the vehicle. It could have been caused by the engine fire from the recall that was made or that was done. Now I'm thinking about it as well. I'm just realizing now, if this guy did not know or cannot remember if there was a recall made for his vehicle, for his 2022 model, it's likely that he did not even call Nicholas to even let him know that there was a potential vehicle fire made. So that's something that's in my head as well, that he didn't actually let him know that there was a recall notice. So if he continued driving not knowing that there was a recall notice on his vehicle, that could explain the vehicle fire as well. So this was from the testimony of Dean Glover. This was the main reason why he was brought in. There was no real cross examination on this. And he was basically brought in to basically show that this was the Ford Explorer leaving, or was it entering? I think it was leaving the hunting club where the torso was found. That was essentially the bulk of the cross-examination. The toxicologist also gave testimony, and this was Brittany Gresham. She basically said, based on what I understood or what I interpreted from her cross-examination, it was just essentially that the body was decomposed to a point that the alcohol that was seeping through the body basically skewed that basically limited them from what they can find from the body, because it was no longer blood that was there. They could recover some blood, but it wasn't there was a more likelihood that because of how the body was dismembered, etc., that they were not able to extract key materials or key samples, key blood samples from the body, because the alcohol level was quite high. So that was the bulk of his testimony. Then Keith Lemarr, the medical examiner, he gave testimony today, and his testimony was essentially to show that basically a rehash of what the GBI agents, the special GBI agent Brett Dickerson gave testimony regarding, and he basically testified that there was a cut, that the femur, the bone that was cut through was a femur, and I believe the state done well with this witness, because they highlighted that the femur is what you require to basically walk, and you can't really walk without it. So for you to cut through that bone requires a lot. So he also gave testimony that animals had also eaten part of the heart, part of the body, etc. That there was so this just helped in regards to the separation of the body parts and why it was dismembered and why he would have done things like this, because being out into the wild, the body would have been contaminated. But there was a key testimony that he gave, which was the fact that the body, that based on the injuries to the face and the chest, that there were some bruises that he was able to find on the body, which basically showed that these were defensive injuries. So let me go to that testimony so that you can see, so that you can hear what he's talking about, because let me just go to it quickly.
For you?
Yeah, this is exhibit 1.36.
Thank you. Can you tell the jury what you see here?
Yeah, so this is the back of the right hand and
Oh, before
the right forearm. And on the hand, close to the wrist, there's an area of discoloration that represents bruising. And then on the forearm, you can see two areas of discoloration that also represent bruising. So this is a bruise or a contusion, which is basically an area of bleeding in the tissue caused by impact with a blunt object or surface.
Can you explain to the jury what the phrase defensive wounds means?
Yes. So a defensive wound is a wound that you would receive that you might receive when you're being attacked by someone. If someone is attacking you and striking you with an object, it's what your natural tendency to do is to put your arms up to try to block. And so what may happen if you do block the blows, you'll get injuries on the arm. And so injuries, they're often on the back of the hand and on the back of the forearm. And those are called defensive injuries.
And is it possible that they are potentially also decomposition? Meaning that you sometimes see bruising that isn't a defensive wound?
Yeah, so sometimes we'll, as a result of the decomposition process, there may be discoloration of the body that mimics bruising. So sometimes it can be difficult to tell if an area of discoloration represents decomposition or if it represents true bruising.
So what do you do to determine which one it is?
So one of the common things we do is we'll cut into it, because a lot of times if it's decomposition, it will be superficial and it will be involving the skin. If it's bruising, you'll see more typically you'll see more the bruising in the tissue, not just on the skin surface, but underneath the skin. So cutting into the area of discoloration can be very helpful to determine if it's a bruise or if it's decomposition.
Is that routinely part of your autopsy to make those determinations?
Yes, we often do that.
Okay. And in
so what?
this case, did you
Oh,
find
there you go.
areas that were both bruising as well as potentially decomposition?
Yes.
I'm now going to turn you to slide number 144. Slide number 144. What exhibit number is that for you?
Okay, so I'm gonna leave. So the main point of that testimony, from what I understand, is this is that the victim, Mindi, in this case, would have been fighting back when she saw the assailant. So this means that likely. She was could have been surprised and put her hands up before she was about to be hit on the head, and I believe that's what Dr. Weinstein focused on in his cross-examination in regards to the lacerations to the head, and he basically said that if you had up to 9 lacerations or 1 or 2, they'll be bleeding. So they could have found, or there was blood that could have been found on her head, because of these blows. But based on his testimony, their main testimony is, well, his main testimony was it was difficult to extract blood, and this was also the same testimony in regards to the toxicologist. So that line of questioning, that line of cross, just basically goes to show that there was more that could have been done. And he was the last witness that it just goes to basically add that there was more that could have been done, but there could have been some blood to be extracted from the head, but in this case there wasn't none, so there could have been likely mistake. I don't think is the best highlight or the main highlight, because I do think that the blood would have been, I'm no expert or anything like that, but the decomposition and the animals eating the head of the body, all those things can affect. And I think that this is I've got to give this to the prosecution, because they have highlighted thoroughly that they were really, really limited based on how the body was removed, and the head, I believe, was found on the 2nd of December. I believe that it was found then. So what more can you do after finding the torso, then the head, then the leg in different parts? So it just shows that even if this blow would have caused a lot of bleeding, the blows to the head, etc., it still doesn't really change much. So anyway, that was the bulk of his testimony, and his testimony just goes into the the intent element for the malice murder, and he basically just he just basically proved the dismemberment and also the separation of the limbs, etc. So he did say, did he cover the cause of death? Yeah, he said that it was traumatic injuries that was the cause of death, and he also said that the manner of death was a homicide. Traumatic injuries, I'm guessing he doesn't know the mechanism. They don't have the mechanism for this crime, which is something that's surprising, because usually you would know whether how it's caused, but they're banking on the decomposition ruining that part. But I'm imagining it was likely done with a hammer. It's clearly not stab or anything like that. It's clearly not a stab, not a stab or anything like that, because they didn't find stab wounds on the torso or anything like that. I'm trying to think how this body was even found, because the mental image I have is that she might be burnt up or something like that, but no testimony has been presented to that. Why was she so unidentifiable? The idea that I'm getting is that she was beaten to a massive, beaten to a complete pulp, but we don't know what she was used to be beaten to that extent with. There was no testimony in regards to the hammer or a hammer, because that's what I'm thinking that the likely mechanism would be, and I'm just going by the similarities between his testimony and the testimony from the medical examiner from the Shelby Neely trial. We covered that on the channel. You can go watch that as well. But it was the Shelby Neely trial, and the medical examiner was, it came out in that trial that there was lacerations to the head as well. So was it caused by a hammer? So when I look at that, I think it's quite the fact that they can't determine what likely caused the blows and all those things is kind of weird. It's kind of, but anyway, these are humans. There are limitations. Anyway, I think the state of decomposition made her unrecognizable, or that's how I understood it. I hope that, they couldn't determine when she was killed, so we don't know. She could have been killed literally 3 months prior, who knows, or 2 months or a month. But I'm guessing that they have narrowed down the timeline because of the data or the car that they have. I'm guessing they narrowed down that timeline. But the fact that we heard testimony that it was found quite quickly, that people noticed because it was out on the open. So it would have suggested that she was killed quite quickly and it didn't decompose that quickly. But the fact that there was maggots and animals on it suggests that there was actually quite a long time before the body was found. So I'm trying to reconcile what the state was presenting in their opening statements. I'm trying to bring that together, and to me at the moment it's not tying up in with the timeline that I have in my head, because for this rate of decomposition, I would expect it from the legs and the head. I would expect that because it was found, I'm not too sure on the dates, but I believe it was found on the 2nd and the 5th of December. Maybe there were more days that I'm missing, but there was an extended set of time from the torso that was found sometime in November. I think it was 11th of November, if I'm not mistaken. But it was found sometime in November, the torso. So when I look at that and try to reconcile it with the opening statements, I am left again with, just trying to grapple and bring it all together, because this level of decomposition doesn't make sense for someone to find that body that quickly on that same day that he dumped the body. So this means that he must have, dumped this body. He must have killed it. Oh, my bad. Okay, 2nd of December. Torso was found on 2nd of December. My bad. Thanks for that. Shovel pick was November 4th. That's about a month. Okay. I appreciate the correction. I got the dates completely wrong on that. Red face at the moment. But yeah. But the leg was found on the 5th. I definitely remember that. I definitely remember that statement. I will update accordingly. But yeah, I appreciate the correction. But yeah, so the point I'm trying to make is for him to have dumped this body on these days, and and this was the state of the decomposition, it just suggests that he would have killed her and kept it in operation, then dumped it. So that's what I'm thinking. That's literally what I'm thinking, because it just wouldn't make sense for the torso and like all of these things to have maggots on it, etc. But anyway, thank you. The medical examiner looks like Neil Patrick Allen. What does he say? Have you met Ted? Have you met Ted? I remember that classic show. Typically, there is a letter from the manufacturer sent to the owner of their vehicle if their vehicle could be affected. The issue would be how to present that letter into the trial, because it's definitely, I'm thinking of the hearsay part as well. So, but he definitely would have. I'm still going back to that. He definitely should have introduced something to show that there was some type of callback. So I'm definitely staying on that. But yeah, that's all the recap. That's all the recap for today. We are going to be back tomorrow, same time, 6 p.m. Eastern time, 11 p.m. UK time. We are going to be going through all the events and happenings of day 3, giving you the recap into this case. Very exciting case, in my opinion. Lots of things to expect as the trial goes on. I still want to hear testimony in regards to this McIntyre person. Is Nicholas gonna take the stand to even talk about this person? Is he gonna, plead the fifth and just basically choose not to? Is it plead the fifth to not testify? Is it the same thing? I'm not too sure how it works in the States. Well, but is he gonna choose to not testify? That's something that we have to wait and see. So I cannot wait for tomorrow's testimony. They still have a couple more witnesses to go. We are currently on witness number 11. I think they have 20 witnesses on the witness list that was submitted to the judge. So there's still quite a long way to go. So I can't wait to see what these witnesses present. No smoking gun yet, in my opinion. It's just we know that the body was dismembered, but there's nothing to definitively tie it back to Nick. Personally, the cross-examination that was done in regards to the wipes, I thought that was probably the best highlight today, to show that there were massive holes, massive mistakes made in this examination, despite there only one bite at the apple. The testimony that we've heard from Brett Dickerson all through on day 1. So yeah, yeah, there is still a lot more twists and turns to expect in this trial. Trial channel says he's a lawyer, so he might be confident enough to take the stand. Personally, I'm for it. Like I said in my previous coverage of the Ali trial, I have always said I am all for defendants taking the stand. Not because I'm from the UK and we have to take the stand anyway, but it's just defend yourself. You have that right. Go up there, tell the truth, compose yourself, prepare with your lawyer, answer the questions that's placed with you, and get it out of the way. Like, let your lawyer handle the right section to make sure that the correct evidence comes in. Let them handle the objections. Let them do all that. But you yourself go in there and talk your case, talk your talk, present your evidence, because you still have to defend yourself, you know. So that's my own personal opinion about defendants. I wanted that's the one, Ali trial and the Karen Reed trial. I wanted Karen Reed to take the stand to basically talk about what was happening that day and, you know, and defend herself a little bit. If you don't get it, tough. I'm not going to be mad at it, but it's just my personal preference. Take the stand. So I hope he does take the stand. I really do hope he does take the stand. But yeah, I appreciate everyone that have tuned in. If you watch live, make sure that you hit that like button. If you are lurking in the chat, I see you. Thanks for tuning anyway. Let me know, in future, do say hi. We are very nice over here and everyone is always welcome. But anyway, that's all I have time for you. Take care of yourself wherever you are, night or day. Have a good night or day or wherever you are. See you on the next time on Catch Up Court Podcast. I have been Hines, and yeah, let's catch up on these cases together. Have a good day. Bye-bye now. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Catch Up Court Podcast. Don't forget to like this video, share this video, and subscribe for more legal cases that we cover on this channel. We do nothing but cover legal cases and true crime on here. You can also check out our playlist that we have of all of our content. They're all available in the playlist option. Make sure you go check that out. So make sure that you hurry back and catch up with us. See you on the next one. Bye for now.